The picture we certainly get is that Jesus was joy-filled, satisfied,
content,
right?
Yeah.
And at peace. And I don't see any instances where he is working to improve his self-esteem. You're listening to the Prepared to Answer podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And just a reminder that all the resources mentioned in this episode are linked in the episode description. You can find other related resources on our website at preparedtoanswer.org.
Welcome to the Prepared to Answer podcast. My name is Shawn Walker, and as always, I'm joined by Scott Steen.
Good morning.
We have just come off of our banquet this past week, which was
wonderful time.
Oh, great time to meet with. We talked about our family of supporters, and it was a great time to meet with them, talk about what's happening at Prepared to Answer, and to unveil 2 new banquet shirts. And if you were there, you would have gotten the banquet shirt.
You weren't there, you missed it.
But you kind of haven't missed it because it appears you're wearing a banquet shirt.
Well, it's not a banquet shirt. It's just, it was clean and available.
But very bright. I like it.
I've got brighter.
Yeah. So we are on our second episode of How to Think Like Jesus About Mental Health.
Yeah.
So the last episode, we really introduced it. Where are we going today? What are we talking about today?
Yeah. Well, today I thought we would just move to talking about some foundational ideas when it comes to mental health. I mean, what we're trying to do, our project here, Shawn, is, and maybe this just serves as a good place to have a reminder that we are not here to offer mental health advice.
No.
Right? We're not practitioners. We're not, therapists. That's not our role. And I would just say, if you are someone who's wrestling with mental health challenges or difficulties, we would encourage you to see, a professional, a doctor, or talk to someone trusted about that. Don't depend on what we're talking about to give you what you need for actually, managing your mental health. But what we want to do is help Christians to really start to think about these important life subjects through the lens of what we have been developing over the last year. It's not a formula, but it's a framework for understanding the mind-shaping influences that shape the way Jesus thinks about everything. And then now, how do we use those to help us think, to have the mind of Jesus about the important matters that we talk about, such as mental health? Today, what I want to begin with is just starting at the very foundation of where do we, in our minds, where do we even ground the very notion of our mental health? Like, where is the starting point? I mean, obviously there's lots of literature and advice and help in kind of methods and techniques to manage or deal with mental health. But as we think about it, we want to think like Jesus. Where would Jesus start as his foundation point for anchoring our mental health? What's the starting point for thinking about it, for acting to improve it, or to grow in it? Where would he begin?
Yeah.
So that's what I want to talk about. That's what I want to dig away at.
Okay. That sounds great. And maybe to take a bit of a step back, Scott, it's just amazing to think that Christ would think about mental health. And we've talked about, the divine and the human, but Christ had to deal with mental health issues as a human.
Yeah. Well, I mean, of course, he wouldn't have thought of it in the terms we use.
No.
We've just become so much more conversant, and to a great extent, that's a positive thing in terms of progress in our culture and openness to talking about these things.
Yeah.
But you're right. Jesus was fully human like us, and he certainly cared about the state of our hearts and minds and souls. And our mental health is a huge part of all of that, of what makes us who and what we are.
Yeah.
Right?
So often when we're looking at these subjects, we will look at how the world would look at mental health. And so maybe that's a place we can start, Scott.
Yeah.
In terms, how does the world ground mental health? What is the starting point?
Right. Where is kind of the foundation, or what the world sees as, here's the critical place from which you have to proceed, in building a framework for or a process of improving your mental health. And I mean, I did a fair bit of reading, and some of this is just, this is just stuff you pick up by virtue of living in the culture.
Yeah.
But it's always helpful when you find someone who articulates it, and it's like, well, here's a clear example, I think, of the way our culture thinks. Sure. So I was reading an article by Techi Davis. She's a PhD, a psychologist, studied at Berkeley. She's a researcher. And she writes, and she wrote this article. It was a short article, but it was called 4 Steps to Feeling Better About Yourself. And the subtitle was, Self-Criticism and Low Self-Worth Can Hold Us Back. Here's how to start banishing those negative beliefs. Okay. So here's the opening paragraph, which I think is very representative of the way all of us in our culture tend to think about, where do we ground our mental, what's really essential and important. So here's how she started her article. Data from my well-being survey recently revealed that positive self-views, and she kind of defines that in brackets, or feeling good about oneself, a general belief that we are good, worthwhile human beings, were the best predictors of happiness. So she had a survey of a happiness predictor.
Yep.
So a positive self-views are best predictor of happiness, even more so than 19 other emotional processes, including gratitude and strong personal relationships. Positive self-views emerge from self-esteem, self-acceptance, and self-worth, among other things. So right away, that is very familiar to me.
Sure it is.
As one who has just lived in our culture and reads, kind of the conventional wisdom on mental health, and someone, as I shared, I've had my own journey in that regard. But really, the bottom line here, positive self-view emerges from self-esteem, accepting ourselves, seeing ourselves as worthy,
right?
Among other things, she says. Right. And then she kind of lays out her here's the 4 steps. She says, first of all, figure out your needs, live authentically, forgive yourself, celebrate your quirks. So really all packaged into trying to improve the positive self-view.
Or your self-esteem.
Yeah, your self-esteem.
That's very familiar in today's mental health.
Yes. And I mean, I think we can appreciate that I fall in this myself. We've all encountered people who come to us and it's like they've got negative self-view. They are really down.
And what do we do?
Down on themselves. Yeah. What do we do?
You're great. Yeah. You know what? You got lots going for you.
Cheer up. You've got so much going for you.
Yeah. You got that shirt. Look at that shirt.
You've got this great
shirt you're wearing. You're a
this great stable of shirts. And
yeah. All speaking to self-esteem, right? We're trying to increase the other self-esteem.
And I think the operative word there being self.
Yeah.
So I think in general terms, our culture's starting point for good mental health is the self and esteeming oneself appropriately. And now we could spend a whole lot of time probably parsing what different people think about what that means.
Yeah.
But I think that's the gist of it.
Sure. Maybe this is an opportunity. And maybe, Scott, before we jump into the framework and how Jesus would think about self-esteem, maybe we also have to say that not everything secular is bad. Right. And I hope that isn't what people perceive as we're talking about these things.
Right.
What we're doing is we're taking ideas that the world is presenting about whatever the topic we're talking about and asking how would Jesus think about it.
Good. That's a good point. And I think it's worthwhile stating that we're not here to bash all secular ideas about mental health treatment.
Right.
And that's not our mission here.
No.
But as Christians, to think like Jesus about these things, sometimes that requires course correction.
Sure.
But it doesn't necessarily mean we throw out the whole works and that the world has nothing useful to say about mental health, right? That's not our purpose. That's not our program.
No, right. So then how would Christ think about the concept of self-esteem?
Okay. As I was thinking about that, just think of a few things that Jesus said outright. It just seemed to run against the grain of the whole idea of self-esteem.
Yeah.
Matthew 5:3-5. Blessed are the poor in spirit.
Blessed.
Right.
Yes.
And not the poor, not the financially poor, the poor in spirit. Those who in spiritual poverty, who see that they are devoid of something, they will see God.
Yeah.
Blessed are the meek, right? For they will inherit the earth. I mean, we could talk about pride and self-esteem.
Sure.
In Matthew 16, Jesus said, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves, take up their cross, follow me. Yeah. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it.
And then Isaiah, in description of Christ.
Oh, Isaiah 53, yeah.
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 There's
nothing attractive that made him attractive to us. There's nothing in him that made it attractive to us. Man of sorrow.
Right.
Familiar with suffering.
Yes.
We esteemed him not.
Right.
That's what Isaiah 53 says.
So that would appear to go against the thought, or even what we had started the episode with in that article about, increasing our self-esteem.
It does. And so
does that mean we walk around, miserable and depressed?
I think it just means, as Christians, whatever your journey is, you've probably, thought about your mental health, probably read some of these kinds of articles and thought, hey, that's good advice, and maybe tried some techniques. And we're not here to just kind of dismiss it all. But okay, now we've just read some very important words from the mouth of Jesus. And those kinds of statements need to make us stop in our tracks.
Sure.
Because that absolutely goes against the grain of what the world thinks. Mm-hmm. That the way to happiness is to build a positive self-perception based on healthy self-esteem.
Right.
I don't see that in Jesus.
No.
I don't.
No.
There seems to be in Jesus something very contrarian in so many ways.
Right.
Right.
But the scripture doesn't present him as one that was constantly, like how we would term depressed. Like a depressed person is someone that is
right,
always depressed.
I mean, the writer of Hebrews said, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, Jesus was obviously in mental distress
sure.
leading up to the cross, and yet there was this unrelenting joy that drove him.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, in part, you want to be careful not to equate joy and happiness.
Right.
Happiness can be a very momentary feeling. Jesus, he wanted his joy to be our joy.
Yeah.
Right. That was his mission and purpose.
Yeah.
Which goes beyond just mere happiness, although I think happiness is rooted in joy.
Sure.
True happiness.
Yeah.
The picture we certainly get is that Jesus was joy-filled.
Yes.
Satisfied.
Mm-hmm. Content. Right?
Yeah. And at peace with his place with God. And I don't see any instances where he is working to improve his self-esteem.
Very good point. Very good point.
In fact, self-denial seems to be his teaching and his practice, that he would give of himself, that he would surrender himself. That seems to run counter to self-esteem.
Yeah. We're setting up something really interesting here, Scott, to say, he would not probably ascribe to that notion of building himself or building his self-esteem. And yet he had what we would term good mental health.
We can presume he did as the perfect Son of God.
Right.
He was the perfect man.
Yes.
The perfect Spirit-filled man.
Yeah.
So yes, we can presume that, I think, safely.
So Scott, then obviously we want to now dive into the mind of Christ. If we have this, notion that he was not concerned with his self-esteem, might even appear the opposite, and yet perfect Son of God, we would say that he had good mental health. How can that?
Yeah, there are a few key passages in Scripture that give us insight into the mindset of Christ.
Yeah.
And one of them is Paul in Philippians 2. This is a very key passage where Paul encourages us, if you have any joy in being united together in Christ.
Yeah.
He said, make my joy complete by being like-minded. He said, having the same love, being one together in spirit and one mind, doing nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, he says, in humility, value others above yourself. That doesn't sound like self-esteem. That sounds like self-giving, right?
Right.
Value others.
Yes.
Not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. And he says, in your relationships then with others, have the same mindset as Christ. What mindset is that? Mm-hmm. And here he lays it out. Who being in very nature God, right, the second person of the Trinity, the divine Son of God, though he was in nature God, he didn't consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage, something, right. Some translations say something to be clung to or grabbed a hold of. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant etc., being made in human likeness and going even to the cross,
Yeah.
death on a cross. There's the mindset of Christ is one of complete self-abandon, right? Of giving up ourself, of making ourself of nothing so that we might look to the interests of others.
That's fascinating.
So how is that? And here's where I think
Yeah.
our Think Like Jesus framework helps us.
Okay.
The mind of Christ was formed by core principles,
Right.
that anchored his mindset. And I think the one here so how is it that Jesus could be the most, the healthiest, most mentally healthy, whole, well-rounded, perfect individual person, man, right, that ever walked the earth? How could that be? And yet he made himself his
nothing.
mindset was, I will make myself nothing. I will make myself a servant. I will give up myself for the other. How? How does that work?
Yeah. Because he was human.
He was.
Yeah.
Where our world's mindset seems to be good mental health comes from putting yourself first, taking care of yourself, esteeming yourself. And Jesus said, give yourself away.
Yeah.
How will we not be destroyed in the process if we do that?
Yeah.
Because that sounds crazy to our world. And I think here is the key, and it's ultimately rooted in our first core principle of our Think Like Jesus framework.
Yes.
And that is the heart of Jesus.
Okay.
And here's something he said in John 17:24. And Shawn, I think we'll close with this because I think this is just foundational and key. Jesus says, he's praying to his Father. He says, Father, I want those you've given me to be with me where I am and to see my glory. That is the fullness of my worth, of who and what I am. That's his glory. To see my glory. And what is that? He says, the glory you've given me. Right? He didn't generate it himself. That glory was given to him by his Father. Yeah. Why? How? What was the impetus, or what was the root of that glory? And here he says, because you loved me before the creation of the world. And that is our first core principle, that every thought Jesus had, and I would argue every thought about his mental health, right? My well-being, how am I doing, right? I'm under stress, I'm under strain. Where do I turn? My mental health is unraveling. What do I look to? Every thought Jesus had was motivated out of his love for the Father, ultimately rooted in his Father's unfailing love for him. Yeah. And it's just worthwhile. A good word search to do in your Bible software is just do a word search on unfailing love. And you will get some really good, particularly in the Psalms.
Yeah.
Because that word in Hebrew has said that unfailing love, that's the unfailing love that God declares to Moses in Exodus 34, when he reveals his name, his character. Yeah. The Lord, the gracious, compassionate God, slow to anger, abounding in unfailing love, chesed, right?
Yeah.
That's what over and over again the Jews, the biblical writers went back to. That's where they grounded their sense of security and safety. That's how they knew God would care for them, because of his unfailing love. And Jesus was no different.
And it's no different for us.
Exactly. Right.
Because some might say, okay, Scott, but that's Christ, and Christ is God's son, and that love is different.
No.
It's not.
It's not. Go and read John 17, because what Jesus says clearly in John 17 is that I've come into the world, Father, that the world may know that you sent me, and that you've loved them, talking about his disciples, that's us, with the same love you have for me. The Father loves us with the same unfailing love that he has for the Son. So if that is what Jesus anchored his mental health in, that's where I want to start.
Yeah.
And so again, I'm not throwing out all of the kind of therapeutic helps that may be useful in our culture. I think there's some good wisdom in terms of how our thoughts impact the way we feel. The focus, the grounding, the starting point, not to center my focus on myself, but on the unfailing love of God my Father shown to me in the person of Jesus.
Yeah, and what an unchanging foundation.
Yeah.
What a foundation that cannot be shaken.
No, it's not shaken.
Versus a foundation of ourself that could easily be shaken.
Right.
Right?
Right. And our capacity to try and generate or make ourselves feel self-esteemed.
Yes.
Right. I think that's just, it's like trying to build a house on shifting sand.
Yeah.
It might work in spurts and starts to kind of help you cope, but I don't think it will provide for you
that foundation.
I won't say I don't say I won't. I won't say it, I don't think it will. It won't provide for you a sure foundation for your well-being.
Yeah. No, that's great. And maybe that's a good spot to finish for today, and a great foundation that we can come back to in our next episodes as we continue this journey about how to think like Jesus about mental health. And again, we just want to reiterate, if you are struggling with mental health, to seek out that professional help through doctors, through therapists. Those things we do not say you shouldn't do. We're just hoping that this helps you in your journey with Christ and to think like Christ about a topic that affects all of us. It's not just some, it's all of us. And so we hope you're encouraged by these words. If you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you. You can email us at info@preparedtoanswer.org, or you can leave a comment or message on whatever platform you're listening to or watching us on today. And until next time, God bless.
Thanks for listening to the Prepared to Answer podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you have any questions or comments you'd like to share with us, feel free to email us at info@preparedtoanswer.org, contact us through Facebook or Instagram @preparedtoanswer, or use the contact form on our website, preparedtoanswer.org.